Every single day, I get more than a dozen applicants for my coaching program. Now, we ask every applicant this same important question. What do you think is your biggest challenge when it comes to dating? And to my surprise, most applications actually have a story to answer that question. And the plot line of this story is similar no matter where these women are located. And we get submissions spanning across 5 different continents. Now, the story goes like this. I met a guy, things were going well for a short time, and then all of a sudden he pulls away or ghosts me entirely. This is something I hear over and over and over again, and the frustrating part is that once they get to this point where the guy starts pulling away, there's already been a significant time and emotional investment. Now, I don't want this story to happen to you, which is why I'm gonna teach you how to avoid investing time in the wrong men and how to attract the right guys in your life. I'm Jason Silver, the dating coach for ambitious women. On my channel, Attract Great Guys, we explore the truth about men and how you can attract a committed, loving relationship with a great guy. Please hit that red subscribe button and the little notification bell next to it so you can get notified of my upcoming VIP trainings. Now let's jump into it. There's one simple, fundamental understanding about long-term commitment. And once you understand this truth, it makes it really easy to figure out what a guy wants and whether he's looking for a long-term commitment or just a short-term hookup. And I'll teach you one question that you can ask a man to determine and reveal what he's really looking for. Now, before I tell you that question, I want to show you how men make a decision to commit in a relationship versus making that decision to pull away and avoid a relationship. I had a client a few years ago when I used to coach men, and he would get in these relationships for about 9 months. Things would be going great. They'd spend more and more time together, and all of a sudden, there'd be a moment where it was time for them to make a serious decision that impacted their future. It required an investment for both of them that had trade-offs. This was a true investment. Now, at that point, my client, he'd get afraid, he'd begin pulling away, he'd keep going until he'd have to break up with his girlfriend. So he went to a female therapist before I worked with him, and she told him that he had a severe anxiety disorder. But when he told me the story, he just sounded like a normal guy. I think a lot of men and women can have these freak out moments during a relationship because commitment can be scary. It is a scary thing at times. So here's what I had him do. I just gave him one exercise. I had him ask himself a few questions. What do I really want? And what are my long-term preferences, like lifestyle preferences, things that I'd like to accomplish or experience in the next 30 years? And I had him think about this vision. I had him spend time with it, to elaborate on it, spend time during the week visualizing what it would feel like 10, 20, 30 years in the future. So he did this exercise, and after a week, he told me that he had much more clarity. He had this vision where he was a grandfather. He was in his backyard, surrounded by children and grandchildren. They were barbecuing. It just sounded really nice and wholesome. And his whole demeanor changed. Within a few weeks after that, he reached out to a woman. He dated her briefly, but he was just too afraid to pursue it at that time. Guess what? They're married today. Turns out he never struggled with severe anxiety after we met. He was misdiagnosed for having this normal fear of intimacy, and then he freaked out about freaking out. It was just too much. I asked him, I said, what made you make that big decision, that jump to finally get married? And he told me at the end of the day, they were just aligned. They had the same vision for their life. And what he did is he plugged himself and he plugged her together in that visualization, and he had a vivid dream that she was the perfect right fit, and it made it easy. So one of the biggest challenges is when you both have different visions for the future. It's just not gonna fit. No matter how hard you try to push the relationship, it's not going to fit. So the principle here is fundamental, it's simple. It's like getting into a car with no idea where you wanna go. You're gonna keep driving in circles until you pick a destination. You get to where you're going by design or by default. And if you're not thinking about your relationship by design, you end up in a relationship by default, and that might not be remotely close to what you really want. What's so frustrating for me is when I hear people telling me they've been dating someone for months or even years, nothing's progressing. Nothing is evolving or growing in the relationship. So I ask, where are you going? And they say to me, well, I want marriage eventually. I say, okay, What does that mean? What does a marriage partnership look like? What's your vision of this? What brings you happiness in the partnership? And then all of a sudden, they start thinking about details because they haven't done this before, they haven't dived into their own vision or thoughts. They haven't asked themselves questions like, where do I really want to live? Or what does our day-to-day look like? What are our different roles and responsibilities in the relationship? What does it really mean to be a partner or to have a partner? And what are my deeper values that are important to me that I can't waver on? And when you start breaking things down and becoming more clear and intentional, all of a sudden you might realize, oh my gosh, this partner is not a good fit. Or maybe there's just one single point that we're blocked on. We're not aligned on this one thing. Maybe we just need to spend a little bit of time seeing where we can compromise on that point. And then all of a sudden you've got a roadmap. You have a roadmap to a real healthy relationship. But without that roadmap, you're just bumbling through life. I believe this. How we do anything is how we do everything. And in life, it's more important to be aware and intentional about your thoughts, your actions, your words. Whether you complain or focus on your circle of influence, it takes mental energy. It takes thought and focus and a commitment to resolve the problems. But within that commitment, within that focus, is where the foundation of healthy relationships begin. You can try to find a matchmaker to intro you to someone. You can go to singles events, but until you become more intentional in your relationships, in your day-to-day interactions, asking yourself, where am I going? How am I getting there? Who am I going with? And why is that important? Until you're clear, it's going to be difficult to reach that point. This channel is called Attract Great Guys, and to me, great means different for everyone. But this channel is about attracting what I call commitment-minded men, men who are looking for that lifelong committed partnership. That's what this channel is about. And in my mind, if you meet a man who's got no vision, no idea where he's going in life, what he actually wants out of a relationship, if he's never even considered those things, then the idea that he really wants a long-term relationship is a little ridiculous to me. How can you expect to have something as complex and delicate as a healthy relationship if you've never actually put any thinking time into it? And if he's never put any thought or consideration into his future, then what does that say about him? What does that say about his personal leadership abilities? What does that say about his decision-making process? This is someone who is choosing what is arguably one of the most important decisions of his life, who he's going to spend the rest of his life with, what kind of a personal relationship he's going to invest in for the rest of his life. And if he hasn't put any thought into it, and he's just kind of acting on it, that's scary. That's like partnering up with a loose cannon. He's going to be running around the world like a chicken with his head cut off. When I was dating my wife, Kathy, one of the first things that we spoke about within the first few days was, what are you looking for? Where do you want to be in 20 or 30 years? These are important questions. Where do you want to be in 10, 20, or 30 years? What does that look like? Where do you want to be heading to? Because that's going to tell me right off the bat if we're aligned. Now, I've said this before, and I'll say this again. What someone tells you, that's not 100% of the equation. You can't just focus on what they said and expect that that's the answer. Their actions are much more important. So if he says, this is where I want to go, all you are doing at that point is looking at his actions. Are they aligned? Are they consistent? I remember the first week dating my wife, I wanted to know about her vision with kids and family. And it was scary. It felt vulnerable for me to ask such a heavy question so early on. But I wasn't asking her if she wanted to have kids with me. I was just curious, do you want to have kids? I was curious about her vision. And if guys aren't asking these questions, then I just don't get what they're thinking about. I don't get it. I don't understand why you wouldn't want to know that this woman that you're dating, what matters in her life, what she cares about, where she wants to go. Each person should be curious about where the other person is going and be open to sharing where you want to go and being honest about it. Don't just listen to what the guy says, watch what he does, and at some point, if the guy says he wants to go in this direction, but he's not taking any action to get there, you're not going to be able to change that. You don't have this special power to make a man be in integrity. These are choice points where you can be honest with yourself and let someone go, or just continue to stay in a relationship with someone who isn't the right fit for you. And we know where that ends up. That's not what you want. So to recap here, and I think this is so important, if you want to know a man is interested in a long-term relationship or a short-term relationship, you have to understand his vision for the future and see if he acts in alignment with it. Ask him questions related to his vision in a relationship, in a partnership. And if he hasn't thought about it, if he has no ideas or preferences or any opinion on where he wants to go, in my experience, the guy's not living in reality. But maybe you're struggling to even find a quality guy who wants to commit. Regardless of whether you're meeting men who won't commit or you're not meeting men at all, I'm here to help you. I have a coaching program that is designed to help you meet and attract commitment-minded, quality men quickly and easily without wasting time on the wrong men. And if you're interested in hearing more, I filmed a short training, just filmed it, just click the link below, check it out, and I'll see you over there. Thanks so much. Be well.